There's some interesting shapes in here with these big conifers poking up in the church in the background, and I've got this lovely row of houses along here and a few shapes. I don't know how much we're going to get we should put in it, but we'll see when we sketch it out. Probably that is the scene I will do, I think. Well, here I start to sketch out my scene. Unfortunately, I've had to cut a huge amount of this video because of the bright sunshine. Absolutely bleached it out, and my iPhone camera couldn't seem to cope with it. So there are very bright elements in it, which I've kept some of it in, I guess, to try and preserve some of the video. I took probably an hour and a half to do the painting, so I tried to save some of it. But anyway, here I am sketching it out. It's a little bit faint, but just getting the general shapes. Two big trees on the left of the frame, and the church is in the middle. But it was characterized mainly by some lovely conifers or cypress. I'm not quite sure what they are. I want to find out really. And I'm looking to sketch the main shapes in really to give me some guidance with it. You can see some of it there. So this light, too much light on the white paper reflecting back, and as I say, my camera phone couldn't really cope with it. But I've cut the worst out of it, hopefully. Here I am doing in the main tower, and the light is coming from the right side, so the right side of the tower is going to be obviously a lot brighter. And off to the right here I'm trying to get some of the trees. And there's a road to our right as well. Hence I've had to do the voiceover because the traffic noise was just impossible. So I'm going to start with my oval round Daroni squill brush. We'll do some wash in, general wash, get the sky colour. This is my little plein air kit. I've got a much more extensive set for use in my studio at home, but this is all you need for a little sketch when you're out. So I'm making a puddle up now, some cerulean blue there, and ultramarine blue. Actually, I think I've probably put in the blue, but the overexposure of the camera has washed it out, but I think it's already in there. So I've moved on here to a bit of green. Again, a bit of a jump cut there, because it was just impossible with the bright. But I'm putting some greens in the foreground to try and get rid of some of the white glaring screen that I have there. Washing in the bright side of the church tower here. You notice it's yellow ochre there, a bit bright, but as we know with watercolour it dries a lot lighter, but I'm just wiping it out a little bit and it will dry a lot lighter. And the chancel there, a lot of that will be hidden by some of the trees that are in the foreground of this church. It's actually set on a bit of a hill, so I'm looking up at it somewhat. It's a dip to our right, but it's perched up on the hill, and I'm on another rise. So it's quite a striking view actually when you come around the corner and spy it. Notice I've just wiped out a little bit of the this bright side here, and you can put in where it's wet, you can put in little bits of blue or other colours to give some texture. There's quite a lot of architecture details in there, but you can't really see them in great detail because I will be overlaying the trees as they came from the left side and over the tower and in front of the chancel there. So it's couldn't really see them. Could see a bit of the sky now. There's a bit of shadow that I put in. This is a sword brush. Nice pointed edge and sharp edge. So I'm just going to use that for initially anyway. Getting some blue there. Mix it with a little bit of green, dull it down, and again to just sweep in the shadow side of the tower there. Not getting so much sunshine, so it's put a bit of blue in there. Good shadow colour. Just dropping in a few little marks to try and suggest some of the features of the stonework on the church. Bit of a castellation on the top there, so try to hint at it. Now starting to put in these big conifers. Unfortunately, the bright light there has washed out even the church, so I had to preserve a little bit of the video so you can see where we're going. As you see, I've put in quite a bit more there. But there's some beautiful trees here. Got some nice shapes. So I'm here trying to put some shapes in. Here we've advanced the video, got rid of some of the worst will wash out hopefully, and a tree, I've already got that in. Two trees really, this one right in the front and taking a more prominent position, marking a little bit of the chancel there is poking out. Here put a few straight lines, always help with architecture. A few fine details. Try to map in some of these other trees, slightly more muted to take them a little bit into the distance. The brighter colours always bring your form closer to you. So here in the shadow, my arm there, you can see a little bit of what we've done. Hopefully get some idea of where we're going with this. Here I'm putting a bit of a shadow in. I could have done with a good deal of shadow, couldn't I? But just this purpley colour, purple bluey colour. The in front of these bollards, and the trees behind to my left are casting a shadow over this bit of grass in front of me. So a bit stronger there. As I said, there is so much light on this scene that it's rather made them lighter than they actually are. I think they were a little bit darker than that anyway, but here is the roadway. Try to find the edge of that. Again, unfortunately, that's washed out somewhat. I think I'd put a little blue, grey, slatey colour there to cover the asphalt, but unfortunately it's looking a little bit white. Strengthening up on the shadows there. And this shadow, even on that main trunk from trees to the left of it, casting over the trunk, and trees set back a little bit there. Yes, getting some Chinese white now. I think I'm planning on, yes, just where I tapped there was a tree which was a lot of white flowers. And actually you could see little flecks of white coming down. It actually had a hail storm there. I thought it was little bits of blossom coming, but they're pinging on my hat and onto my paper. At one point it made a blob of water. It melted obviously, and I thought, oh, I must have spilt. You see on my dark trousers little flecks of hail coming. It was really quite cold. But it didn't last so long, fortunately, so we pressed on. And putting a few bits of white there in this wall, which is a few bits there. It was catching a bit of light, obviously on the top of these stones. A little bit on the white of the church there, trying to emphasize. Again, I'm afraid it's overexposed because of the inability of the camera to shut down sufficiently. Yes, there's a couple of houses that are low, set low there, because there's a bit of a dip there. Two probably 17th, 18th century old farm built barns, now converted to housing. Again, I'm trying to put that white of that tree there. Now I think I'm putting in some of the gravestones there. Quite distinctive. But again, I think they were being a little bit washed out by the light there. I've just put in the pathway that comes from that gateway up to the church. It takes the eye in a little bit into the scene. Putting a little bit of white on the trunk of this tree, try and emphasize the light. It's coming from my back, a little bit more to my right, I suppose. And when I got home, I made a few little adjustments to the trees. I darkened them up quite a bit as they are in the foreground, set somewhat against the sky. So I made some finer details when I got home. this is the little paved area leading up to the gate. I'm putting in a little white there. Unfortunately, it's still washing out a little bit there. Can't really see that. Trying to define a little bit more these banks of trees that we have here. Variety of trees, old oak trees and big conifer there in the middle. Quite a variety of trees. Try to vary the shape a little bit. Mixing up a little bit of white and ochre. I think I'm just touching the wall and some of the gravestones. They were a little bit too bright and white, so I dulled them down with a little bit of ochre, so they read a little bit better. Putting a bit more ochre into that wall. It's a little honey-coloured stone there, in reality. And on the front of that building there, I noticed a band of different coloured stone. So I've just put a little smidge in there and smudge it. And a bit of yellow now. Oh yes, I'm trying to pick out a little bit of light on the right side of some of these trees. They are catching, quite a bit of light in places, so I have to make sure I've got my lights and darks. Just tapping in a bit of ultramarine blue there, because these conifers do tend to have a bluey green colour to them. I'm trying to strengthen up a little bit on them. A little bit more blue there, a little bit of green. It'll give me a little bit brighter green there on that conifer. Trying to retain the shape, of course. Try to do that with trees, and this edge was a bit too sharp. I'm trying to break that up a little bit with that fine little brush there, so it's a little bit more ragged, the edge, which is what you want. It was rather too symmetrical. If you leave it like that, it looks like a cutout. You don't want that. Got to break up some of the edges. There's a lighter green there, which you might just about catching. Try to vary the greens. Greens are the most difficult to deal with, really. They come in every shade and tone imaginable. You have on the base of any trees, in the shadow of the canopy, it's often a lot darker, so I'm trying to do that, to ground things a little bit. So I'm tapping in a few dark parts there. Let's see on the other side of the road, down the hill a little bit, there's a bit of woodland there. to soften the edge on that big old tree there. It's quite a big, tall canopy to that tree. And soft edge there. A bit brighter there, but muted into the distance. We'll push it back. And then I'm just dabbing a few bits of white there. There's a church notice board there. I've got the frame of it in wood, but the white notices on it. Just dabbed a bit of Chinese white into it. And now I'm putting a little shadow by these bollards. They're casting a little bit of shadow. Grounding with a little tiny hint of shadow. It's good sometimes to sit back and squint your eyes and see where the darks and lights are. Takes away a lot of the detail if you do that. You just make sure you've got the right tonal values. That's the path I'm putting in there now. Pathway up to the church from the gateway. I think we've come to the end now. There you see it, a little bit bright light, so you can see it a little bit better. I think we've captured it reasonably well. Tried to get, but as I said, when I got home I made the tree on the left, put a few darks in there and a bit of detail to emphasize the barks, and here I'm just coming up and show you what I was trying to capture. I haven't put in the cars. I thought I'd give that a miss. What I have missed out is that lovely lamppost in the mid-ground there. I have to put that in later. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. That's Odell Church, little village in Bedfordshire.